everyone. I'm Francesca Christian with On the Horizon, a program that celebrates new and exciting, upcoming creative work. Today, I am determined to track down a comprehensive, up-to-date working definition of dramaturgy as it relates in real time to the creative process. In the dictionary, dramaturgy is defined as the study of dramatic composition. Unfortunately, that doesn't give us much to go on. To help us today is my well-known, celebrated guest and friend, Liz Engelman. Hi, Liz. Welcome.
Hi, Francesca. So good to be here with you.
Liz recently taught at UT Austin in the playwriting directing program, where she remains a guest dramaturg. She's been on staff at prominent theaters throughout the country, such as Mixed Blood, Act Theater, Intiman, and Actors Theater of Louisville. She worked at Hedgebrook, a retreat center for women writers on Whidbey Island, and has also worked on developing new plays across the country and abroad. Liz has served nationally as president, board chair, and current board member of Literary Managers and Dramaturgs of the Americas, board member of the National New Play Network, and a member of the National Theater Conference. Liz has been described by her colleagues as a world-class thinker and a builder of community. So Liz, how did you first learn about dramaturgy, and when did you decide to pursue it?
First of all, let me just say, she did not say dramaturg. She called me a dramaturg. Often people get that confused. And when I first heard it, of course, when someone said, Liz, you should be a dramaturg, I was like, don't call me that, first thing. And second is, what does that mean, and why would I be one? I was in a madness in literature class, or literature and madness class in high school in 10th grade. And my teacher at the time, Ann Ciccolella, who is still a dear friend and colleague and the executive director of Austin Shakespeare Festival, said to me, Liz, you have the ability to look at the big picture and conversely relate it to the small moment. And the other way around, you're able to look at something specific and relate it to the overall picture. And I was like, this is a job? This is dramaturgy? What do you do with that? So what I did with that in 10th grade was I wrote the program notes to The Crucible. When I went to college and decided to concentrate in theater, the two paths were acting or directing. And I would rather run down the street naked than act. I mean, I'll take off my clothes now, but not interested in acting. And directing also wasn't really where my heart or passion was. And a professor there at the time, Tori Herring-Smith, said, Liz, you should do an independent study in dramaturgy. I realized she wasn't calling me a turd at that point. And I thought, well, now two people have said this to me. I think I really should do it. And so I pursued it as a profession, really pursuing new play dramaturgy specifically, less the classic plays, and really looking at how new work is made and built, and how, as a dramaturg, I can help a writer hone in on intention, clarify meaning, and communicate their story to an audience.
And so tell me more about what makes your work dramaturgical. How does that differ from, saying, being a research assistant, where you might provide supporting information or clarify the cultural or the historical context for a given project?
You know, a lot of people early on, and some still do, might equate dramaturgy with purely research. But, you know, dramaturgy is actually much more than that. For me, dramaturgy is an active verb. It's really trying to understand intention and trying to, clarify and understand meaning. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's less important to tell someone how people held fans in 17th century France. And it's more interesting for me to find a little nugget of an article that kind of opens up a way of exploring, why people felt a certain way at that time, And again, I'm less interested in classic plays, so I do it less. I would say that I see myself as a dramaturg as the kind of naive in the room, opening up questions, asking for further clarity, less about the 3D CD-ROM with a big loose leaf and big glasses who knows all the facts. So an assistant really can help provide information. You say, oh, can you find out these facts? But I think to translate that into something that's dramaturgical is really how do you activate that research, make it a verb, and make it meaningful and connecting in the rehearsal room for the actors and then to the audience.
So let's imagine that you're in a workshop and new work is being developed. Take us through your basic actions and objectives as the dramaturg.
So early on in a process with a writer, I really want to understand as much about the play from their point of view as they know, right? So I want to kind of get in their head and get kind of like a brain dump or like Xerox their brain and heart. So those are like tactics that usually I'm always asking the question why, right? Dramaturgy is really about uncovering the why underneath something. You know, why is this here? What are you going for? The consequence of this is here. Is that what you want? Asking questions, asking open-ended questions to learn more about what the writer is intending, and then to see if the play is holding up. I like to think of myself really as an acupuncturist for a play. I'm really following the energy system of a play and tapping into those narrative veins and see like where that energy of the story is flowing, and then to be able to isolate where is it blocked, where is the energy leaking out, what might be creating a blockage of confusion that we need to get past to go and further understand the story. So I'm always trying to figure out how does an audience stay interested, engaged, and compelled, and when they're leaning back, what caused it? Where's the energy lagging or leaking?
Yeah, thank you. That's really helpful. Most notably, Liz Engelman is the director for the nonprofit Tofty Lake Center, also known as TLC, on Tofty Lake in the Boundary Waters of Minnesota. Here she has developed an important and thriving artist residency program for creators from all disciplines. How did you get started at Tofty Lake? And what is the basic format?
So, of course, in my profession, everything has a story. So I'll tell a little bit of a story for context here. Back in 1998, I was working at ACT Theater, as you mentioned earlier, Francesca, and ACT Theater had a new play program. We realized at the time that only 16 or 17% of the plays produced in the country were produced by women. Hedgebrook, a retreat on Whidbey Island, which I also ended up working for later, wanted to support the work of women's voices. Together, ACT and Hedgebrook came together to put together a program called the ACT Hedgebrook Women Playwrights Festival to support the work of women playwrights. And on our first gathering on Whidbey Island in this beautiful, beautiful retreat, old farmhouse, in the old farmhouse, there was this old wooden table that you could just feel held the energy of so many women before us around in conversation. At the end of the first meal, one of the 6 women playwrights got up to take her plate to the sink. And the chef said, no, sit down. You are here to write. We are here to take care of you. Let us take care of you. And I just remember that moment of frozen shock and awe for a woman to hear, no, you sit down and you do you. You are here for your work and we are here to support and nurture you. And I just thought at that time, like, more women need to hear this and more artists need to hear this. And so that seed was planted back in 1998. And then in 2004, I moved to Minneapolis. And a playwright, Jeffrey Hatcher, a wonderful colleague and friend, said, Liz, have you ever heard of the Boundary Waters? And I had never heard of the Boundary Waters. And it's the most beautiful, beautiful, largest protected region of the country here in the United States, bordering Canada, a chain of lakes. And I went up and paddled around and just fell in love with the area and thought, oh, if I had a retreat center, what playwrights could I bring up here? And so I decided to take that seriously. It's a longer story, but I decided to take that idea seriously and found this retreat center, which I did found the land in 2006, started incorporated. And in 2008, we had our first artist guests. And for the last 13 years, we've been hosting week-long residencies from artists across the country, across disciplines, emerging artists early in their career up through late career, mid-career, late career artists working on their craft. There are also group residency programs where there could be a whole theater company coming up to rehearse a play. We have organizational retreats where we have fellows from the Playwright Center come up to kickstart their fellowship year, dancers and choreographers from the McKnight Foundation fellowship come up and kickstart their residency, their year up at the lake. And so it's a wonderful way for organizations, groups, individuals to come together in community, to find solitude, to work on their own craft, and also time in community to share process, tricks of the trade, what brings them joy.
You once told me that communing with nature is essential and deeply integral to the creative process. Why is nature so important?
Well, think about it. Right now is in these COVID times, what do people want to do? They're stir crazy. They want to get outdoors. Why do they want to get outdoors? Breathing fresh air, having, hearing birds, feeling breeze on your face. All of those things really inspire, heal, and nurture us. And I don't think that we have to be artists who are just, writing in a dark garret and having to kind of suffer for their art. I think you can be inspired by beauty and the beauty of the natural surroundings to really be generative, to be in a generative place. I mean, nature is literally naturally generative. And so what else can be more of a catalyst for your own creative work? And so I think to be able to create in abundance and not feel like you're holding on in scarcity, in a tight scarcity mentality or surroundings, is really beneficial.
So you've already answered some of this question, my next question. Aside from your hands-on work at Tofty Lake, you describe yourself as a dramaturg for the human as well as the artist. And what does that mean exactly?
So at the beginning of every residency week up at Tofty Lake Center, I ask each artist in residence what their human goals are and their artistic goals are for their time at the lake. Because sometimes they're different. Your artistic goal could be, I am going to crack that second act if it just kills me, and I'm going to figure out, that narrative arc between blah, blah, blah. They can have very specific goals. Or I want to make sure as a composer, I'm finishing 3 songs before I go back to real life. Mm-hmm. But as a human, your goal might be, I just need to disconnect from all my devices. I need to just unplug. I want to fill myself up by just resting on the water, floating on the water, or reading these 4 books that I just need to get, I need input in my life in a different way. And so I feel like as a Tofty Lake Center, in a way, is kind of 3-dimensional dramaturgy for the whole person. It's a holistic way of saying, what are your needs as a whole human artist? Not only, are you here to finish those 3 songs, but how can you feel as full and fulfilled as possible, and how can we help? And I say that because sometimes, your work and your life are really interconnected, intertwined. Sometimes it's hard to take them apart. And sometimes as you talk about your work, you realize you're really talking about yourself and your life's work, or just where you are in your life at the moment and what your needs are. I mean, we're all on our personal journeys, and those are narratives, right? And so if I'm looking at the study of, dramatic composition, we're also building lives. We're composing our life. We're building our own narrative.
So I'm going to step back here and ask a much bigger question. In the bigger picture, because the focus here is really much more on process, much more so than it is on a finished product, how do you define success? And say that I'm a complete outsider to this work. What is success for you and for the Tofty experience?
For me, success in any process is knowing that the person who I'm working with in any capacity has fulfilled the goals that they set out for themselves, and maybe surpassed them, and maybe found even new goals, but that they are satisfied with their experience, that what they intended to do, they met, they exceeded, because it's always based on what do they need and want. And if they feel fulfilled, oh my God, what a success. It's not about what I think they need, it's what they feel they need. And that whether the experience or my dramaturgical conversation was able to provide it that's success for me. It's very small. I mean, I think, we steal this from Oprah all the time, her aha moments. But for me, success is basically seeing an artist's face light up because they just had a little, a key turned in their understanding about a moment in something that they're working on. And that light just goes on. They're like, aha, oh, I got it. That was unlocked. And if I can help unlock one or two small things for them in their conversation with me and their time at the lake, that's success. Now there's more work ahead, of course, to then make that art go into a gallery, that book go into publication and people in an audience's hands, that play go to a theater, the dance get onto the stage. There's other work to be done for professional and economic success. But for me, what I care about most really is that is the process success, is the unlocking aha discoveries that are so satisfying to the person who has them.
You told me that the most important goal right now, as far as the center is concerned, is to create fully funded residency packages for incoming artists. You want to build workspaces that support all of the artists, and you want to add structures that deepen the residency experience. And you've given me some examples here, like an outdoor gazebo for group interaction and dialogue, or a solo writer's studio perch overlooking the lake. How does all of this get funded? What are your funding sources?
We get funded, and most recently I've just gotten funded regionally by the Minnesota State Arts Board, locally by our Arrowhead Regional Arts Council. So there are some grants out there. What they usually support are some programmatic opportunities. And as they should, they're helping us be able to give some funding and opportunities for artists. But those fund only some of our weeks. They don't fund our full 16-week program. We want to make sure that all artists can be funded and not only ones who are on those grant weeks, but that any artist who's coming up to Tofty Lake Center should be able to be subsidized for their work. We know how important art is. During this COVID times, what do? We're listening to music, we're reading books, we're watching Netflix, we're watching readings online. Like we don't exist without art, and those artists are hurting at this time, right? A lot of their livelihood has been cut off. So the last thing that we want at Tofty Lake Center is to have to make them pay to do their work. Mm-hmm. As we've evolved in our evolution, we've had to have them subsidize some of the costs, as we've been growing. But as we go forward in these next 10 years, we don't want to be leaning on them. So we do ask for contributions from anybody who's interested in our mission and vision, and we are also looking for more grants.
Wow, thank you for all of this. I'm sad to say that we're at the end of our time here, but I want to thank you, Liz, so much for enlightening us on the art of dramaturgy. I feel much better now. And
success.
Yes, success right here. And thank you for bringing to life the Tofty Lake Center experience for all of us today. What an amazing adventure. For those of you viewing this program, to learn more about Tofty Lake and keep up with the progress, just below this YouTube recording that you're watching right now, there's a button that says Show More. Click on that and you'll get links to the topics we've discussed today, including a full-length video of the camp that will show you the wide variety of work being done there. There's also a donation link to support the ever-evolving work that is continuously going out into the world from the Tofty Lake Center. So with that, we'll say goodbye. This is Francesca Christian on the horizon with Liz Engelman signing off.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh, man.
How was that?
That was awesome.